Let's learn how rounding works in Python. You're going to be a little shocked in the beginning. File, new. Go ahead and save it as, I'm going to call mine rounding.py. And after you put your comments in, let's do the following. Let's just say print, and let's call the round function. And the round function says you receive a floating point number, and it turns it into an int. So let's see what happens. So we'll say round 1.5, and while we're here, let's go ahead and round 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. So we're just going to print those out. So we're rounding 1.5 to 4.5. Let's go ahead and go to our terminal and run our program, rounding.py, and it prints off 2, 2, 4, 4. That prints off 2, that prints off 2, that prints off 4, and that prints off 4. Do you see a pattern? What pattern do you see? Look carefully at this. This does make sense, doesn't it? If that was your grade, if your grade was a 93.5 and 94 was an A, you'd hope the teacher would round it up if it's a 0.5. But look at this one. 2.5 rounds down. 3.5 rounds up. 4.5 rounds down. I bet if I did the following, 18.5, what do you think the answer is going to be? 18. What about 99.5? 100. The pattern is odd numbers will round up. If it's a 0.5, even numbers will round down. And this is used in financial operations, and they call it banker's rounding or Gaussian rounding. And what they feel is it's all going to work out in the end. Of course, if it's your money, you're thinking, no, it doesn't. I want to make sure my rounding works. But this is how a default round works in Python unless you pass any parameters to it. Now, we can pass parameters. We could do the following. We could say we want to round 1.5 to 1 decimal. Now, if we run it to 1 decimal, of course, it's 1.5. What if we said, let's round it to 2 decimals? Still 1.5. Why? Because it's only 1.5 there. What if we said round it to 0 decimals? Now it's 2.0. What about 2.5 rounded to 0 decimals? 2.0. And so that's what that round is actually doing without any parameter. The same concept. It's assuming that you want 0 decimals associated with it. But if you notice, the difference is once I added a comma 0 to it, see what the result was? 2.0. What happens if I take the comma 0 off? Run it again. The decimal disappears. That returns an int, whereas that returns a float. Interesting to know. What if I had 2.50 and I want to round it to 1 decimal? 2.5. What if I had 2.50 round to 0 decimals? 2.0. 2.51 rounded to 0 decimals. Now it moves up to the 3. So as long as you head over the 0.5 by anything, it's going to go up. What if I had that number? Still 3.0. And this is why they think it all just sort of works out in the rounding. So it takes this number, and this is how many decimals you'd like to see. That says, show me 4 decimals, or round to the 4th. You're not going to see 4. What if I had that number? What do you think would happen? In fact, let's back it off just a little bit, and let's say that we want to see 2 decimals. Is it going to be 259 or is it going to be 60? 2.6. So once you get past the 2.5 or the 0.5 with odds and evens, then it rounds similar to what you've been taught your entire life. Let's try another number. What if I had a negative 10? Actually, let's do this. We want, let's try this number. 1136, and I want to round it to a negative 1. 1140, because what's happening is the negative 1 says, let's run it to the 10th, right? And so since that 6 is greater than 5, it'll now make that 4. So what would it be if I did negative 2? Because that is less than 50, it will turn it into zeros. And so if you do a negative, it works with your tens, your hundreds, your thousands, your 10,000ths, and so forth. A positive works with the decimal on the right side. And that's how rounding works in Python.